Now we're moving on to page 2 of our Module 2 pretest. Number 5 is all about telling time, specifically minutes past and minutes to the hour. So they are supposed to complete these to show matching times. And you'll see we have an analog clock, we have a digital clock on the right, and we need to complete the middle. So one of the strategies that I have taught recently in being able to tell minutes past and minutes to is just creating a line that goes from the middle of the clock all the way through the 12. And that is indicating that it is o'clock time or that it is a new hour. Then we're going to create a line that extends off of our minute hand. So I always start back in the minute hand so I can kind of get the flow going of a straight line. And I've extended that out past the edge of the clock there. And this is going to hopefully help them to realize that although there's 60 minutes in the clock or in an hour, which most of them can tell me that there's 60 minutes in an hour. What I'm still trying to get through to a lot of them is that the minutes past the hour and the minutes to the hour, to the next hour, are always going to equal 60. Meaning, however minutes passed of this current hour, the remaining time in the hour is the difference, basically. And so that's been a very, very tricky concept for a lot of third graders. So one way that I've tried to make this more visual as far as learning is to highlight the section of the time that has already passed. So that's why I started with that light or that line there. And I'm just going to color in this amount of time that has passed. And then once I've got that colored in, I'm going to count the minutes. Now, we talked about how the time on the clock with the dots, they kind of remind us of a number line with an interval of 5. And so we're going to use that to count by fives. So when we're at the 12, it's 0 minutes have passed. But then we can say, okay, 5 minutes have passed, 10, 15. But now here we have to start counting by ones because we don't have enough to go 5 again. So we're at 15, then we count 16, 17, 18. So that tells me that there are 18 minutes past the hour. Now I have to figure out what the hour is. So a lot of times students may want to extend this hour hand out and down. And I try to discourage that because it is confusing a lot of them. Then they start counting it as a minute hand, and I don't want that to happen. And then we're going backwards, starting at stage 1 again. So we want to just make sure we know what hour it just passed. And we need to also be reminded sometimes that the numbers on an analog clock are only indicating the hours. The minutes are being indicated by those dots around the outside edge of the clock. So that's a reminder that I have to give a lot. So we can see this shorthand has passed the 5. So it's 18 minutes past 5 o'clock. And the difference going around the circle, all this extra time left is going to be how many minutes to the next hour. So I've told your students, okay, we can start counting. Some of them want to count starting right here. And that's okay, they can if they would like to. But to make it simpler and starting with our biggest value to count by and then adding on our smallest value, they can also go back up at this 12, know that this is 0, and then they can count by fives backwards. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So then they're only counting 41, 42. So then the minutes to the next hour are 42. 42 minutes to 6 o'clock because it's the next hour after 5. And then to double check their work to make sure that they're right, I always have them go back and add these together. If they are correct, then it'll equal 60 every time. because there are 60 total minutes in 1 hour. So it's the difference of what they did not use. And then when it comes to writing the digital time, they're going to take this first time, 18 minutes past 5 o'clock, and they're going to think about that backwards. So 5 o'clock is the hour, and then there have been 18 minutes past the hour. So 5:18 is what it would look like on a digital clock. In number 6, we're talking about elapsed time. So the directions say solve the problem and draw jumps in a number line to show your thinking. Pamela started her homework at 4:05 p.m. She finished at 4:42 p.m. How long did Pamela do homework for? Now, even though this is a time word problem, we can still use cubes to make sure that we're getting all the information we need and we don't miss anything. So in cubes, the C stands for circle the number cues or clues. So 4:05 p.m. is a number clue and 4:42 p.m. is a number clue. Then we want to underline the question. How long did Pamela do homework for? We want to box the keywords next. So she started her homework at 4:05. She finished at 4:42. And the question is asking how long. It is not asking what time was it. It's asking how long. So we know that we're probably going to have an answer that is in minutes. And we can confirm that by looking down here at the answer box and see that we are filling in the amount of minutes that have passed. So that is something that to keep in mind there. Now we're going to evaluate and solve. So what I said about question 5 is that around the clock you see those dots, and they're going by fives. You can see the darker dots where every 5 minutes hits. And so if you stretch out those dots into a flat line from the analog clock, you get a number line. And since our two times here are 4:05 and 4:42, we can see that they're within the same hour. So counting by fives is actually a smart idea here. So it's an open number line. That means I can start at 4:05, and then I can make these little dash marks every 5 minutes. I'm just going to make a few. And I'm thinking in my head while I'm making these 4:05, 4:10, 4:15. So these times are going to go by fives. 4:25. Here's 4:30, 4:35, 4:40, and we'll end it at 4:45. Now, earlier in class, I messed this up, so I'm going to stop and double check to make sure I've already counted I've counted by fives correctly. So we've got 4:05, 4:10, 4:15, 4:20, 4:25, 4:30, 4:35, 4:40, 4:45. I think I'm okay. So we know that Pamela started her homework at 4:05. So I'm going to make a dot there. And she ended at 4:42. So I can see that if I look at this and I look at the minutes that have passed, not the hour, the minutes, I can tell that there has been some groups of 10 that have passed. So to make jumping more efficient, I'm going to actually jump by tens. And I will stop when I can't jump any more tens. So I'm going to start at 4:05 and I'm going to jump to 4:15. That's plus 10 minutes. I'm going to do another jump to 4:25. That's plus 10 more minutes. Still good on my time. I'm not at 4:42 yet. I'm going to do another jump of 10 to 4:35 plus 10. If I do another jump of 10 to 4:45, I've passed the time that she finished. So I don't want to do that. But I'm going to go to the next biggest value or down to the next biggest value. So I'm going to jump 5 instead of the 10. And that will put me at 4:40. So then, after I'm at 4:40, I only need to go 2 more minutes because I need to go to 4:42. So I'm going to just jump a little jump and call it 2. Now I need to add all the time together that I jumped. These jumps So here's 10, then 20, then 30, 35, 36, 37. So when it comes to how long Pamela did her homework for, she did it for 37 minutes. In number 7, it says these are the measurements of groups of straight drinking straws. Circle the group that can be used to make a rhombus. For this question, we have talked about 2D shapes, and your students should know the difference between a rhombus and a rectangle. They are both quadrilaterals, but rhombuses and rectangles, they share some things in common, but also there are some things that are different about them. So a rhombus is going to have 4 sides. In fact, the sides will be straight, so 4 straight sides. But they also have to have sides the same length or of equal length. That is what we know about rhombuses. And the directions tell us to circle the group that can be used to make a rhombus. Here we see units of measurements. We see that the units are centimeters. Group 1 is 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters. That does not match our rule of sides being equal length. So because I know that rule, I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate any group that I see that has not the same amount of or same length of sides. So even group 3 has 2 sides the same, but 2 sides are a different measurement. And even though those 2 match up, it does not fit my rule that all sides are the same length. So that only leaves group 2, where all sides are 7 centimeters. If we look at number 8 here, we're going to write R inside each rectangle. So in group 7, we were focusing, not group 7, number 7, we were focusing on rhombuses. Now rectangles have straight sides, they have 4 sides, but they also have 4 90-degree angles, which we've talked a lot about 90-degree angles. We see them everywhere. They meet the wall and the floor. They're strong. They hold up buildings. They hold up spaces. They're in the corners of books and TVs and things like that. So students should know what a 90-degree angle is. It's just applying it to the fact that it can only be a rectangle if it has 4 90-degree angles. So it doesn't matter how long or short the sides are. In fact, we talked about how a rectangle or how a square is a rectangle because a square has 4 90-degree angles. And there's a myth that a rectangle needs 2 shorter sides and 2 longer sides. That is a parallelogram. That's what needs 2 shorter sides and 2 longer sides. And we haven't really talked too much about that. But we can have a square as a rectangle because it fits the 4 sides, 4 straight sides, and 90-degree angles in a closed shape. So if we are only looking at those factors and we need to write an R inside each rectangle, then I'm going to go through A and I see that we do not have 4 90-degree angles. So that is not one of them. I'm going to leave that one alone. B, I see we do have 4 90-degree angles. And even though this is tilted, I can still tell, and we've talked about how this little box in the corner can indicate a 90-degree angle. And we see one over here and over here. Now, I don't do too much with these boxes because what happens is third graders try to put the boxes in, even if it's not a 90-degree angle, and call it a 90-degree angle. So we don't want to do that. But it's just one way of indicating that, yes, this indeed is a 90-degree angle. So there is one of our rectangles. See, I can see that that shape is leaning, and with leaning shapes, you don't normally have 90-degree angles, but D sure is, and so is E. And even though F is tilted, it still has 90-degree angles. G is not, and H, even though small and tilted the other way, it also has 4 90-degree angles. So this particular question is 8 points. And you get the points by either not writing anything to indicate that it is not a rectangle, or putting an R in the box. So there are 5 rectangles, and I've indicated those below. And then you just leave A, C, and G alone. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful to some of you who needed a little bit further instruction or further reteaching in these areas so that you can have success on the test tomorrow. Good luck.